the official welcome to Heal the One Who Heals, providing you with inner child healing for the heart-centered professional. To assure your confidentiality, the recording, which will be given to all who registered, will start with the slide presentation. So if you were on the screen, you will not be recorded. How we're going to communicate is through the chat. And I get distracted by the chat. So Doug, my co-host, will alert me or report to me what is happening there. Second, I want to begin by creating a sacred space, inviting all of you to participate. And we can create this in a number of different ways. We can start with where we're mostly coming from, and that's our brain. And we can move our focus from our brain down into our heart. And we can keep coming from our heart. And I'm remembering a meditation that I do. And it says something like this: when you connect with your heart, hear your heart say, I love you. I care about you. You're pure and innocent. Or we can create a sacred space by being grateful. And I will do that. I am very grateful for each of you who are attending in person and for any of you who attend through the recording. Your presence is very important. I have my slides to guide me through the presentation, but mostly I will be speaking spontaneously. I am grateful for the Spirit who is always with me so that I may say what I need to say, because Spirit sees all of you here and will remind me of things that's not usually said in a particular area, because she knows that you need to hear this. So that's my basic guidance. And again, thank you for joining me. All right, my quick bio. I was licensed as a psychologist in the early 80s. And shortly after being licensed, so while I was being licensed, I started working at UC Berkeley's counseling center and was there for a period of time. Then I took early retirement, and with the freedom of time, I began to explore so many things in personal development, in healing, including the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which was 4 years, traveling to Florida 4 times. It was wonderful. In any case, 4 years, 5 times a year. I have explored many, many things, but mostly it was my mind, my intellect doing the exploration. Nothing really got to my heart, and this is why I stress the heart so much. And I've been basically working independently in my private coaching practice for all that time. That's my official bio. Oh, by the way, I authored a book called Listen to the Cries of My Heart, which I'll mention shortly. So the real story behind the surface of this is that I was born in Hawaii, Japanese American. That's my culture. And I didn't know it then, but the culture is very stoical, meaning we keep above our feelings. We don't generally let our feelings affect us. And for me, it meant burying my feelings. So I lived a pretty intellectual life. Add to that, my second mother, my aunt, told me that I didn't have looks going for me, so I had to stress my intelligence. So I did. And I majored in philosophy in the undergraduate, and my master's is in philosophy. So you can be assured that I lived through my intellect for most of my life. 11 years ago, intuition broke through my intellect to give me the phrase, listen to the cries of your heart, which led me on a journey to listen to my heart. And it was a surprise because I didn't know that my heart needed to be healed. And in the process of this, I created an inner child process because that was the work that I started to do then. Intuition also broke through when I was participating in a challenge um, when it said, take this training. I was in a MAP program, and I obeyed. I listened to my intuition. And so I took a 5, 6 month MAP training and learned the most profound way of feeling, for which I'm very, very grateful. You'll know more later. And then about that time, I also found a series of books called One with God. And this is how I became intimately acquainted with Holy Spirit. That's what's behind the official biography. So this presentation, I've used the acronym AWE. A, aware of distress and stress. That will be the first segment. The second segment is who writes your adult script? And E is for empowerment. Once you become aware of your distress and stress, once you learn about the inner child, we'll talk about what do you do with this information. So this is kind of a model for the work that I do. This is the Chinese word for crisis. It's made up of one wei and the other ji. Wei meaning danger and ji meaning pivotal point. So what I am going to do in the first section is talk about sort of the dark side, sort of the avoided side. And the crisis is also a pivotal point where you can use what is there to pivot and move in a different direction. You know, danger, you try to avoid it and you hope it doesn't happen to you and you take care of that. You get so involved in that that you don't see what can I learn from this? And that's the pivotal point that I will impress upon you. All right. So we're going to look with awareness to shine the light to see more about where is the pain. Before I do this, I realized that I wanted to ask a question of all participants here. In the chat, would you identify yourself as a counselor, coach, teacher, um, uh, a care provider in some way. Uh, how do you identify with this topic of being a healer? So I hope I'm not seeing responses. Is my question clear? Yes, we're getting some.
That's
So
that's
these
me.
are
Social work apprentice, caregiver, care provider, counselor, coach, social worker, caregiver, sober coach,
excellent. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
nurse, Reiki, former Reiki practitioner. And
Wonderful.
I both took Reiki, mentor and artist.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, with that, we're going to move to awareness. And just a secret, I want to tell you that I am growing in the belief that awareness is much more than a capacity that you have, that awareness is really spirit. So, with that little hint, we're going to move to where is the pain. So, we're going to use the chat to say yes when I describe something that pertains to you. Say yes in the chat if you work hard and help many people, yet your financial life still feels uncertain or stressful. You've paid attention to helping people, and you haven't paid that much attention to your financial life, and maybe you don't want to look at it. But when you see it, it's stressful.
We have a chorus of yeses, and
Okay.
it's the biggest chorus I've ever seen.
Second, you sometimes feel uncomfortable asking to be paid what your work is truly worth. You discount, you perform things gratis. Anyone feeling uncomfortable charging for their services. We're
Here's
getting, yes, some
some,
yes,
some
yes.
Shelley said, absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Mark
Third,
has no difficulty charging people.
good for you. Third, you give more than you receive, over delivering, over offering extra time. I just noticed that I did that yesterday with a client. He said, "We're going overtime, I know. Make sure you charge me." I said, "Oh, don't worry about it." All right, so got that going for me.
And we have a lot of yeses to this,
Okay.
a lot of emphasis of different sorts.
Thank you. Another question, another statement. You secretly worry that financial success might take you away from your heart or your values. Money is one thing, but your heart and your values are more important. You've got a kind of conflict going. We're getting some responses.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yes, we are.
Last question in this area. Even when money comes in, you still feel pressure or scarcity or the need to keep pushing harder. Mhm.
Again, a number of yeses, Ann.
Okay, good. Thank you, Doug. Now, the next area is relationship. I've got strange questions here in my sheet that I don't like. So let's move to health first. Say yes in the chat. If you often feel tired, drained at the end of the day from holding space for others. Say yes in the chat. If you spend much of your time supporting others and you rarely pause to restore yourself. You don't take a break until you fall exhausted in bed.
And a number of yeses.
You notice stress showing up in your body, fatigue, headaches, tightness, or actual symptoms. Different symptoms begin to appear. Chronic fatigue, irritable bowel, ulcers, migraines,
Chronic pain,
and even,
autoimmune diseases,
yeah, autoimmune diseases, oftentimes heart diseases, which makes sense. You overuse your heart, and your heart is saying, there's more to your life than what you're doing. So that's the segment on health. In relationships, this is my winging it because I don't like what it says. Um, do you feel the pressure to be strong and capable and have it all together for everyone else? In relationships, do you hide any unhappiness, any problems that you have because you're just geared to pay attention to others and don't talk about yourself because subconsciously, that's just not what you do in relationships. It's all about the other.
yes, and lots of yeses.
Here's the third one. How about even when you're with people, even when you're with your good friends, you hide from yourself. You hide yourself from them. They don't know you deep within. Um, you you don't share yourself in that way. And as a consequence of that, when you're with people, you feel alone. Any sense of that?
Martin says some don't bother to ask.
Right.
Sometimes we just have to volunteer.
Yeah, but there's a subconscious script that is, here's one other one, which I know really well. In relationships, although you're with people, you don't talk. You don't participate in the way. You're a wallflower. You are invisible. I was that way most of my life. Shy, wallflower. Anyone in that category?
There's a lot of responses to the prior question.
Okay, feeling alone.
I still feel alone when I am with people and only share with crisis line and counselor. Exactly, Martin. And then volunteering comes across as narcissistic. Heidi says, I'm in a recovery program that requires transparency.
Right. And in the program, we're requiring transparency. It's a skill, it's a capacity to get there. All right, so let's move on.
Shelley said something I think
Good.
remarkable. She says, as a young child, praise from her mom when she entertained herself in the corner, being quiet and drawing.
Right.
Janae says, I make myself small at times. I'm accustomed to being misunderstood and rejected.
So you're already moving into the next segment. Thank you for the segue. Before we do that, I'm going to make a blanket statement. Your everyday life reflects the inner you. Everything you have every day reflects you on the inside. So if there are things out there that are disturbing, it's because there's something in you that created that. In some way, or basically, you're responsible for the world out there if it bothers you, because it means that there's something inside you haven't attended to. That's one way of putting it. The way I'm putting it here for this presentation, our inner children create the adult script you live by. Yeah, you think you're operating as an adult, but the scripts were really written by your inner children formed in childhood. So we'll take a look at that very closely. And in the third section, the empowerment sections, I will address the subconscious because the subconscious holds your trauma, the beliefs and strategies, and needs to be taken seriously. I want to admit that the way I listen to a presentation or read, I like it when I say, oh, yeah, of course that's true, because it reminds me that I have a wisdom and I just need to be reminded. So I'm hoping that as I talk about these things, you will say, I knew that. And to get you in touch with a part of you that said, I knew that. Because because of inner child wounds, we are not connected enough to your inner wisdom. That's the first point. The second is, as I lived so long in the world of intellectual knowledge and insights, none of that leads to true change or transformation. Only experience does. And I wish I had more opportunities in this presentation to have you describe or live with some of your experiences. But when I ask you, yes, in the chat, or present some of the things, I hope you'll take the opportunity to really check in with your inner world and say, wow, does this apply to me? Can I see that it does? So you experience, you take something that is said and you bring it within, because it's only that which will be lasting for you. All the other stuff you'll forget, but that where you've taken time to look into your heart, that will make a difference. And finally, I love this that I only heard in the last few days. Your heart is 5,000 times more powerful than your brain. 5,000 times. We should pay attention to our heart, don't you think? The Heart Math Institute, obviously stressing the heart, feels that it's necessary to connect with your brain to your heart in order to get the kind of inner wisdom that is available to you. And more important, if you were to map the neurons, you will find around the heart, at the top of the heart, so many neurons that you would think would be confined to the brain. So the heart is important here. Okay, let's move on. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of my favorite wisdom's teacher, whose name I think I misspelled. Most people are afraid of suffering, but suffering is a kind of mud to help the lotus flower of happiness grow. There can be no flower without the mud. So in the first section, I try to shine the light of awareness for you to admit, okay, I am suffering in these areas. But the suffering is good because it's the mud that you're going to now realize it's there. And I will talk about how you can cleanse the mud so that the lotus blossom can rise upon out of the muddy pond and be this gorgeous bloom. Before I do that, there are ways of. Can you see the top of the slide? Who is the inner child?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see it because there's this thing hiding it. Okay, we discover the inner child through emotions, beliefs, and patterns. I'm going to skip or go through emotions quickly and spend a lot of time on patterns that are related to heart-centered healers and just a bit of time on beliefs. Okay, the signs of the inner child: anger, fear, and sadness. Whenever you, the adult, is angry, or when you, the adult, is afraid or sad, it probably comes not necessarily from the adult's experience of someone or some situation, but it's because it's touched a wound. It's touched the inner child. So if you see people or yourself being explosively angry, there's a lot of charge there, probably disproportionate to what is happening. That's because you've touched the wound of an inner child and that anger is coming forth. And the same thing with fear and with sadness. You know, like with sadness, sometimes you're watching a movie and you see something sad, but it touches some part of you where you're really bawling, crying a lot. It's not necessarily that situation, but you've touched the inner child, or it is showing up and saying, expressing the sadness it's buried for so long. So the inner child is there everywhere in your adult life, and you have an opportunity to try to handle what feelings are there, or sooner rather than or later say, oh, this was the inner child A part of me created in childhood that was afraid, angry, or sad. Let me connect to him or her. And we'll talk about that in the third section. Now, when you were hurt in childhood, you felt unsafe to be. It is when you needed something and a parent wasn't there. Like they forgot to pick you up at school and everyone had left and you were afraid. You felt so unsafe. That hurt you. Or as a baby, you're in the crib. You need milk. You need to be changed. You need to be held, something. So you cry and scream, and no one shows up soon enough. So the pain is feeling unattended to, some feeling like nobody is aware of my need. And you expressed having a need by crying, but no one came. However, the hurt appears, it made you feel unsafe, and you created patterns, not consciously created patterns, but you formulated how you were going to make it in this world. And the point is, make it to survive. The patterns are for survival. Huh, that's what I said. Trauma parts in the children are created to help you survive. All right, I'm repeating myself. When hurt in childhood, the patterns really often are based on fear. Marianne Williamson said that we come to human life as love, but because of what happens to us, we learned fears, and that dominates our life. When that happens, for example, early in life, you stop breathing deeply. If you watch babies, they breathe deeply. But somewhere along the line, the fears of the world get to them and they begin to not breathe from the abdomen. It is said that 95% of the world breathe at 5% capacities. Are you among them? Notice, are you breathing deeply now? When you're paying attention, concentrating, do you stop breathing? Okay, here's the first pattern, the people pleaser. A child learned that approval and love came when they made others happy. So they adapted. They became agreeable, helpful, easy, and a good, easy child. They learned that in order to get what they wanted, the love, it was up to them to do something. They learned to please people. For example, a coach avoids challenging a client too directly for fear of upsetting them. Or an educator says yes to too many responsibilities. Or a caregiver ignores their own needs to keep others comfortable. And the pain of it, their own voice disappears. boundaries become very difficult. People just keep wanting more, and it's hard to say no. So they keep giving and giving until they're depleted. So how about a yes in the chat? Can anyone identify of being a people pleaser? People pleasing also is to show up being okay. You're not troubled. You're fine. You're not going to be a problem to anybody. So is anyone
We have
saying
five
people?
yeses right now.
Beg your pardon?
We have five yeses so far.
Okay. The opposite of being a people pleaser is being a difficult person. Um, One who doesn't work well in teams because they want their ideas heard and they challenge others, or they tell the people their opinion, or they advise. They don't care about ruffling feathers. They people please.
The
That's one ex
problem child.
uh, okay. Hmm. I don't like that slide. Okay. This is the martyr. The child learned that sacrifice brought approval or prevented conflict. My needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. So a caregiver constantly puts others first while ignoring their own health. An educator works long hours with little rest. A coach gives endlessly without receiving equal support. The pain, resentment quietly grows. Their body becomes tired. They begin to feel unseen and unappreciated. So, can anyone identify to being a martyr? You may not think yourself as that way, but when you come last on who you pay attention to, that's what I mean by the martyr, the self-sacrificing person. Is anyone admitting to this?
Yes, we have someone. Hold on. Uh, Heidi says you described me exactly.
Hmm.
And we had additional guesses. Um, and, you know, although I don't want to claim it, my mother destroyed her health by that, you know, with four children and a difficult husband and who worked a lot. So there's a model for martyr in my family.
Yes, the single mom has to take it all, right? Try to bring in the income, try to take care of the family, the children, the household, the finances, all of that. There's no room in that situation where taking care of herself becomes important. So, are there anyone who has seen single moms sacrifice in that way? My daughter is one, even although her children are older. She's saying, I'm tired of being a nurse, about being the cook, about being the companion. She learned how to self-sacrifice. Any comments that we can
We have a
share?
number of yeses.
Okay. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go back to the slide that I, huh, okay. We will move on. This is a pattern of the super self-reliant. You know, I really have messed up my slides. Let's see whether the next one talks about it. Okay. The lone warrior. I must handle everything alone. Often the child felt this way. Okay, so we've got the situation where you're really young and there's nobody there, no parent there, no sibling there. So the impression grows, I'm in a situation, if I don't take care of it, who will? So they get the idea they can only rely on themselves. So a coach would never ask for help, or a teacher carries the emotional burden silently, wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't ask help because the inner belief is it's mine to handle all by myself. The
Well,
care,
the other
yeah,
belief is that help won't come. There is no help.
very good. So in the trauma part, when you've experienced this kind of deprivation, you carry the belief like that, help won't come. And when you carry that belief of help won't come, it writes the script. You live with that strong subconscious belief that help won't come. And because you have it, you project it out there and experience time and again that help won't come. And guess what? Help never comes. Whereas somebody else who did not have that, help does come. And that's true of all of these patterns we're going through. The trauma parts takes that picture of the experience in childhood and it like, I didn't get love. Love is not available out there. That's the belief, the expectation. So you go out growing up thinking everything is normal for you, but you experience time and again the kind of love that really meets the hole in your heart, fills the hole in your heart, never is found. You might have friendships that never satisfy, or worse, friendships of betrayal, or you have romantic relationships, marriages, and so forth. And it turns out the person you're partnered with can't provide the love that you need. But your expectation written early on that love isn't there for you gets created in the adult life you lead. Does this feel correct? Does it feel right what I'm saying? Because this is the point of knowing about the inner child and healing, because there are so many limitations that the trauma parts hold that unless we discover, as I'm trying to show you with patterns, these patterns are our adult script with all the expectation born out of scarcity that we project and create in our world. Am I making sense? Would people
Delicate,
that
absolutely. And the comment about help struck a nerve with people. Janae said, there is no help, or the help will be taken away if you fail to be perfect for someone else. Corey says, as a child, I was never helped, always disappointed or judged for wanting help. Roxanne feels that you're on target with your comments about scripts.
thank you. I'll keep making the points over and over again, and I appreciate what you're sharing. Ah, how many can own up to being a perfectionist? The child learned that mistakes brought criticism, rejection, or disappointment. So the child got this impression that they had to be perfect. If I do everything right, maybe I will be safe. An example is, as you can read, because there is this banner at the top of my screen. An educator spent hours preparing, far beyond what is required. I know a teacher who has the perfect classroom with all four walls covered with very helpful things. And she needs to have that over preparing. Or a healer feels the pressure to always be calm, always wise, really holding it together. And Doug, would you read the top one, which I can't read?
Uh, a coach constantly questions whether they said the right thing to a client.
Oh, wow, isn't that true? There is an inner critic in the perfectionist. Does everyone hear that negative inner voice that is judging, criticizing, evaluating, and you can be assured that the spirit of that inner critic is not to make you feel good. It's to just point out the flaws, the mistakes that you made. This is an aspect of the perfectionist. And no matter how much you try to quiet it, it's always there. Can anyone admit to that aspect of perfectionism? So the pain is nothing ever feels good enough. Achievement may bring brief relief. You just kind of notice it, but you don't take it in. You can't because your heart is armored to receive anything good because you think, well, that's good for now, but how about the next person, situation? So life becomes a constant effort to prove your worth instead of being peaceful and joyful. How many can own up to being a perfectionist? In some sense, dear ones, by showing up for this or anything like this presentation, there's an aspect of you that's saying, I need to learn more because I need to be better. That is the perfectionist part.
Well, the other consequence is if you do make a mistake, which is inevitable, it's a crisis.
Which we know well. So that was one of my clue that I was a perfectionist because making mistakes was painful for me forever. And my wise mother said decades ago when my then husband was angry with me because I had locked the car keys in the house. And my mother said, everyone makes mistakes, you know. Isn't that wise? Everyone makes mistakes, but the perfectionists can't tolerate making mistakes. So are we getting recognition that wanting to be better, not from the point of view of there's something missing in my life, but the perfectionist stress, do better, do better. So have we beat the perfectionist theme fully enough?
I don't know if you did it perfectly or not.
Of course I didn't. I couldn't read the top screen, just like I can't see this.
This is the emotional avoidant.
Okay, thank you. All right, how many of you know what it's like to be told you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, or was ignored when you were having feelings? You had no comfort. When you were afraid, there was nobody saying, hey, it's okay, I'm here. Or experiencing when a father was uncontrollably angry. Not only did the child experience anger as being so painful to be the subject of, that they unconsciously resolve, I'm never going to feel that way again, ever feel that way, that I hurt people the way my father is hurting me. Because it didn't only end, it was not only the shouting and the anger, but it came with physical punishment. So that child learned that anger is a very dangerous thing. It was really unsafe all around.
The
So,
other, the
yeah,
other cause could be if you were in a family where there was emotional or mental illness and you make a decision, I'm never going to show my feelings.
thank you. So the child learned to move away from feelings, to stay busy, to stay thinking, to stay in control.
Or to drink or to eat, shop.
To escape, right? To play video games, to shop online, to get caught up in watching films. Oh, people don't do that much. Be on social media, go through endless TikTok and various things, getting lost to escape the world that feels too much. So,
Do
the
you see the
key,
top end?
a coach focuses on
Oh,
strategies and solutions, but avoids their deeper feelings. Yes. The educator keeps busy, active, and productive. The caregiver supports others, but quietly disconnects from their own. The pain is feelings do not disappear. They wait beneath the surface. The person may feel numb, distant, or disconnected from their feelings, but it goes across the board. If you try to dampen negative things, you also dampen your capacity to have joy and aliveness. This is the reason people feel depressed. They report depression because they cease to have feelings. They have put such a cover over their heart. They can't feel the aliveness of the heart anymore. I don't know whether you can see it in yourself, but this is the way I lived for most of my life, numb and distant from my feelings except for very rarely. And therefore, this is important. Because I did this, I didn't have the guidance from my heart, which I needed. Your brain, your intellect asks questions. It's logical, it's analytical. It tries to solve problems, it tries to fix. But the intellect does not have the capacity to provide answers. So the brain keeps asking questions, and by doing so, keeps you focused on what disturbs you without turning to what may soothe you. You need your heart for that. But if you put this blanket over your heart, you have no access. There's a wall around. You need to find a way of dissolving that wall so you can get in touch with your heart because your heart is your emotional guidance system. It also contains your inner wisdom. It also contains your connection to a greater being, your divinity. All connections needed to live with purpose, with passion, and with freedom. Now, I'm turning to a few basic beliefs that the child has. It's my fault. In that tiny world, experiencing deprivation, being forgotten, etc., the child concludes, it's my fault. Nobody is there to contradict that. The child just takes it in. It's all my fault. Everything that went wrong in the family. If I had behaved better, if I'd been easier, if I had not upset anyone, then what I'm experiencing would not be. So, example, a coach feels responsible when a client doesn't succeed. It's all my fault. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not because the client can't refuses to give his or her denial. It doesn't matter that he or she doesn't take responsibility. The coach takes responsibility. It's all my fault. Or the teacher feels deep guilt when a student is struggling. I must not be doing my job right. I'm not getting through. It's I'm to blame. It's my fault that this student is failing. Or a giver believes that is if the person they love or care for is unhappy, it's my fault. And the pain, unnecessary guilt, lots of blame for things beyond their control, and their hearts grow heavy with responsibility that was never theirs.
And Corey says, we have 15 minutes left. Will strategies be offered to overcome these maladaptive? So he's encouraging you to
Get to
get
it.
get fixed.
Okay, I think I have one more to briefly go through. Or do I have more than that? Oh, not being good enough. Do you know not being good enough? Whatever happened early enough, you come to the conclusion something is wrong with me. If I do more, if I do better, try harder. So this not being good enough drops into the subconscious, which we'll get to shortly, but it runs your adult life. How many of you can still feel that belief, I'm not good enough? What does this one say, Doug?
A coach, educator, or caregiver prepares endlessly. You check your work again and again. You study more courses.
Okay, no, that's not what I want.
Belief, I am alone.
Okay. Just briefly on I Am Alone. The experience of being neglected, abandoned, and so forth is about experience being totally alone in that world, young world. And this is what we talked about of being feeling alone, even among people. But the aloneness that I want to emphasize here is what I said, I implied, and that is that God, spirit, creator being was always there, is always in the world there. But because of our experiences, we lost the connection with that. So we never could feel the connection with a greater being, with God, with divinity that would amplify, amply fulfill the unconditional love that we needed. So this being alone is a huge theme of the inner child. Here's the quick list of the various other inner child beliefs. Love must be earned. My feelings are not safe. The world is scarce. Quickly, I will gather from the yeses that you have admitted to some of these patterns. The question is, how long are you willing to pay the price? And I have 10 minutes to talk about empowerment. First is an emotional reset. Second is about healing the inner child. And third is about transforming your inner world. The first, emotional reset. I have been talking about this throughout here. Instead of avoiding looking away from distress or stress, any kind of emotional pain, physical or not, if you look at it as a sign that says, this is an opportunity to learn why this is here, because it's a sign of something that needs attention. Get it? Our usual way is to tolerate pain, get through it, but not to meet it and ask why. Ask the pain, what is your message? Ask the anger, what is the message here? So that's the emotional reset that I've now articulated and essential to feel empowered. Otherwise, you feel that the world is against you, that you're a victim. When you change your attitude to all the negative in your life, you're no longer a victim because you're taking charge and saying, what is it that I need to learn? What do I need to transform? You're taking power. That's the first point. The second is healing the inner child, which I will move into by request. Okay, there's the emotional reset. We want to dissolve all the scripts that I pointed to release the beliefs and patterns, some of which were articulated. The power of the subconscious is huge. In any given instant, what you are aware of comes from your conscious mind, 5%. The rest of what is influencing you comes from your subconscious mind. Right now, as you listening to me, all the subconscious material, your traumas, your beliefs, and so forth, are influencing what gets into your consciousness. That's how powerful your subconscious mind is. So, in order to heal the inner child, we need to be aware of the subconscious mind's power. What's in the subconscious? The core wounds and emotional imprints, the limiting beliefs, the conditioned responses and survival patterns, repressed emotions, unresolved memories, and the internalized voices, the critic, for example, subconscious programs and script. So you can see that a lot of the material I spoke about in the middle section, the wounded inner child section, is the material in the subconscious that we have signs of. We're consciously aware of the signs, of the beliefs, of the strategies, but to unhook them so they're no longer governing how we live, that takes work with the subconscious. Now, the conscious ways that you might have tried willpower and see, I don't want this. I will do better. A week later, a month later, same experience. Or the modern thing is to have affirmations to change your beliefs. So you put up sticky notes that say, I am good, I am successful, whatever you want to see yourself with. It's reflective in the mindset changes that so many coaches do and offer, trying to get you to think positively. Notice when you don't think positively, but negatively, change it to the positive. Can you remember? How long can you remember? Well, for a little bit, but the subconscious takes over. And so I want you to introduce to you the most potent way of connecting to the inner child. Here is what I will repeat again. You create your everyday reality out of the subconscious. If there is lack, your subconscious is creating it. If you want something different, isn't it time to work with the subconscious? My work with the subconscious, here are some porting quotes. Your subconscious mind is running your life more than 90% of the time. Joe Dispenza. Your life is a printout of your subconscious programs, Dr. Bruce Lipton. So, I'm talking to you about MAP, Make Anything Possible. It is using a trained subconscious to neutralize and release the pain of your trauma, your limiting beliefs, the persistent patterns that you recognize. The trained subconscious is your superconscious. It's a divine aspect of you that you claim. And with a MAP practitioner, it turns the subconscious to superconscious, a healer. This is a quick testimonial from EJ. I feel so much better from 90 minutes yesterday than I have with years of therapy and deep personal work. I'm still in shock. How quick, how profound. Another, Anne came into my life after illness, cancer, major loss, divorce, and death of a dog. I could barely function. In just weeks, she helped me find calm in chaos, and over the months, I became happier than ever before. She helped me reclaim my joy. If you would like to release the patterns that create your adult life, if you see the advantage of having the power of the subconscious working for you, I invite you to a chat with me. So, Doug, do you have this in the chat so that they can copy it?
Yes, I am placing that there now.
Okay. Now, this is an opportunity to extend this part of the presentation personally, so I know what it is that you're struggling with and how working with inner child healing, which is my specialty, you might be able to address them. I talk about MAP as my potent resource to heal the pain, neutralize and resolve, release the beliefs and patterns. And you might be curious about this session. And in this time together, I will talk about a discounted rate to do one session. So at least you can learn the potential of that for you. I have also other opportunities to work with me, but this is your chance for us to get together and talk. And no obligation, it's free. This meeting is totally free, and I can personalize the what services I can provide, how I can be of help to you. So we can end this by your saying what your takeaways are. Is there an insight that you can share? Is there a hope you can express? The point of this is to point out what you've been struggling not to see. With the idea, my intention is that you will care enough about yourself and your life that you're saying, no more. I need to move in a different direction. And I have provided that in terms of an opportunity to talk to me about how you in particular can take a make transformation your next step or moving to transformation. I've done it. I've worked with hundreds of clients that have done it. I have the experience, and I can tell you, I'm in a place that I was able to jump on an express train to my next level. And I am so inspired and excited, and I can feel the change in me every day because I had done the work to clear enough of what was covering my heart to hear what my heart needed, to get in touch with my inner wisdom, and to get in touch with spirit more solidly so I can sit in the power of divinity. Okay, we're getting takeaways.
Uh, uh, Owner, I'm not sure who that person is, said you were a natural teacher, very wise, calm, and expert at the inner child and a better life. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will schedule today. So sorry that I have another obligation at 2:30. Owner wanted to know if your book was available. I wrote down the title and your full name so they could look for it on Amazon or Kindle. Heidi said, my takeaway is that I'm rooting my health through perfectionism and martyrdom. It has
Yay to
it has
recognizing that.
it has to stop.
Yay.
Shelley says I have a bit more hope. Thanks for your insight.
I'm going to stop sharing and stop the recording. So hang on, folks, and we can still talk. Okay, stop recording.